Let's be honest, this game really needs no introduction. Everyone on Earth knows who Mario is. I mean, babies come out of the womb to the pipe sound effect and saying, "Let's go" nowadays. There's literally nothing I could tell you about Mario that you don't already know. So how about I take a second to introduce myself here instead. My name is Katarui Midas. I'm a VTuber who streams retro games on Twitch in order of the year they're released, with a couple exceptions. And in this video, I'm going to be telling you about the first playthrough I did on my channel of Super Mario Bros. I'm going to be ranking the levels on a scale from S to F and putting a final review score of the game at the end. I kind of call it the 3 R's: retrospective, rank, and review. It's crazy to think that back in the early 80s, video games were considered on the way out. They're probably the most recognized entertainment medium we have in the world today, alongside music and movies. Many people credit the release of the Famicom, or the NES as it's called here in the States, to the revitalization of the industry. And when people are looking for a specific game to attribute to that, they really look to Super Mario Bros. And to be fair, it's hard not to. I mean, this is an absolute masterpiece of precision platforming. And this game has been released multiple times across multiple different platforms. I think there's a Game Boy Color port, it's on Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo, it's got an emulation port, an Animal Crossing on the Nintendo GameCube. You could probably play it on your DS, you could probably play it on your Wii, your Wii U, your Switch. There's probably millions of emulation forms of it. The one that I used for this playthrough on stream was the NES emulator that's available on the Switch. I found that's a very accessible way to play it nowadays, and the save state features make it really easy to capture footage and go back if I need to replay a level quickly. I also want to explain how I went about this. You see, I tried to stream this game in one 2-hour session back in late 2023 when I first started getting into streaming, but I didn't want to spend more than one day on a playthrough, so I kind of heavily abused the rewind function for my first playthrough of this game. I also did just recently replay it to make sure that I agreed with the takes that I wrote down from back then. And while I did do some slight tweaking, because I think I had way too many levels put in the S category, I also noticed I put a lot of emphasis on the Bowser fights at the end of each world, and not enough points on the path to Bowser, which is kind of silly when you really think about it, how it works in this game, because you really don't need to do anything to beat the Bowser fights as long as you get there with a mushroom or a fire flower. We're going to begin this next session by briefly going over each level in order and putting them on the list, and at the end of the ranking session I'll finish up with a recap of my thoughts on Super Mario Bros. 1, so I hope you enjoy. Alright, starting off with an obvious 1-1 is going into the S tiers, and I think everyone already knew this would be in the S tier. There's not much to say about World 1-1 that hasn't already been said. It's just a really good playground level to get used to the controls of the game. It's iconic, it's simple, it's efficiently designed. Just an absolute masterpiece in tutorials without being overbearing on prompts or anything. I think a lot of games nowadays could learn from World 1-1 on how to just design an intro for your game. Following World 1-1, we have 1-2, which is another very solid level. It's important for your first few levels to be a spot to learn how the game feels without major consequences or errors, and so the minimal amount of pits as well as alternate routing with creativity on block breaking makes this another great playground for new players. Plus the first secret warp zone here really rewards creative thinking and allows repeat players access to faster routing to later levels in the game, so that you don't have to just keep playing Worlds 1, 2, and 3 over and over and over. Coming up onto the next level, 1-3, is another solid level, but the first one that I won't be putting into the S tier. Now this is the first athletic level of the game. I think most people know this, but just in case, the athletic levels are the ones where there's a lot of death pits and it's easy to fall through. It kind of feels more like you're in the air or suspended on like a bridge or a tightrope versus running on the ground. Now the level isn't very difficult, but I feel like for younger audiences, this is kind of the first spot where you're going to have a roadblock or have multiple deaths in one level, and it just feels like maybe it should have been swapped with World 2-2 in terms of natural progression in game design. And coming back up into the S tier for World 1-4, it's our first castle level of the game, and it's another masterpiece for where it's put in. It introduces some basic mechanics that are fundamental to castle levels, like the spinning fireballs, and it makes it the first time that you really have to think about timing and your movements in the game. It also gives you a simple introduction to the Bowser fight. Like I mentioned previously, if you have a fireball, you can just raise him down, or if you have a mushroom, you can charge right through him. But otherwise, you quickly learn that you can't jump on him, you gotta get behind him and axe the bridge to take him out. And this level gives you a very obvious and reasonable route to do so. So again, a fantastic introduction to concepts of the game. Moving on to World 2-1, this is the first B tier of the game. I don't think it's a bad level by any means, but it just doesn't do anything special. It's a very simple route, there's not a lot of optional or secret paths in the level. It's kind of just an easy level without introducing anything or doing anything too complex. Moving back up into the A tier for World 2-2, this is a great introduction to how water levels work in the game. There's not a lot of dangerous threats, and it helps you get a feel for the momentum you have with each A tap in the water. I do still stand by this and 1-3 should have switched places, and that's really the one thing that's keeping this from being an S rank in my mind. Alright, my first level that I'm actually having a bit of a negative impression on is World 2-3. This is a very simple running across a bridge level, where occasionally Cheep will jump up at you. They always kind of irritate me since they're seemingly random, and it can be hard to determine for a new player if you need to jump on them, or if you're good to keep running, or if they're gonna, kind of where they're gonna end up on you there. It's a very simple level, so there's no room for alternate routing, so it just makes it hard to, replay this level or find new and exciting ways to tackle the level. Alright, and moving back up to the S tier for World 2-4, this is another really solid castle level. It's kind of basic, it's got one or two different routing options scattered throughout the level. Your timing is tested a little more here, and the boss fight rewards you for getting to it with Super Mario, making the fight easier, but not being too difficult if you get there as normal Mario. Moving into the World 3-1, our first level in the C tier, you'd think with the night theme being used for the first time I'd have a higher opinion on this level, but I really don't think it does anything that special. This is the first level with Hammer Bros as a pain point enemy, and they're handled quite well, but apart from that, there's really nothing that makes this level shine or makes it dull either. Kind of just an average level to run through. And going down another peg for D tier with level 3-2, this is just another uneventful level to me. It's very flat and just mostly revolves around dealing with groups of enemies. There's not really much room for alternate routing or unique gimmicks, so it's just a very open and shut level, especially if you come in with a fire flower. Moving back up to the A tier for level 3-3, I actually really enjoy the concepts of this level a lot. I really contemplated putting it towards the bottom of S. But it's just got lots of fun routing options, and it's their first weighted rope platforms that make for timing pressures without being overly punishing to players who are still learning it. And the second one towards the end of the level is a great test to see if you can time your maneuverability, because it gives you a nice rewarding chance to top the flagpole if you have an understanding of the scales. Coming back down to the B tier for World 3-4, the Castle of World 3 is a bit of a jump in difficulty in my opinion. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's kind of a weird spike from the gap between 1-4 and 2-4 to 2-4 and 3-4. The double up of Potaboo and Fire Bars right out the gate can be a bit overwhelming for a new player's first attempt. But other than that, decent enough level, nothing bad. Fight with Bowser at the end is pretty similar to World 2's Bowser, so I don't have any complaints or anything else to add there. And coming to the C tier with the introduction of World 4-1, it's our first Lakitu level. Now, I don't hate the challenge that Lakitu brings to the game, but I also just don't find it particularly interesting. It's a pretty linear and simple level that just comes down to learning about how Lakitu works. If you can figure out how to kill Lakitu early, there's not much to this level outside of just running through it. There's little option for diversity and replayability on this one, too. Coming up to World 4-2, we're going to jump back up into the S tier. 4-2 might actually be my favorite level in the game. It just has a lot of really fun routing options. There's a lot of cool secrets to find, especially with the big secret warp zone that can take you right to Zone 8. So this is your fast track to the end of the game here, too. There's some fun, tight jumps. I just think that this level is so well designed, and it's easy to come back and enjoy it multiple times. I think this is the one that, as I was doing these, I replayed it the most. I just really enjoyed this level. I don't know, it's really fun. Coming back to 4-3, another athletic level. This one ends up in the B tier. Again, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. There's just not a lot of routing options. It's got a couple interesting jumps, but overall, just another good level. There's nothing terrible, but there's nothing that's super fantastic about it either. Now it does. You're going to notice a trend here as we get to 4-4. There's two levels in this entire game that I put in the F tier, or the failed levels, that I just think shouldn't be in the game. If you've already played this game, you already know where I'm going with this. The maze levels here are terrible. There's no indicator of when the maze starts, how many different options, like paths there are, and it can be incredibly infuriating to figure out just where you need to go up or down, or if you have to go down and up, and it's just a pain in the neck. Trial and Error may have been like what made a game's padding work back in the day. But nowadays there's too much to play, and I don't want to spend a lot of time doing trial and error work in silly games. So first F tier of the list. For World 5-1, we're going back up to the B tier. This is the first level in the back half of the game, so at this point, I'm really not expecting to learn new things in the game, and I'm more just expecting players to attune themselves to the challenges that have already been introduced. Now, it still doesn't hurt to introduce a couple little things, like we have some new enemies here, the Bullet Bill and the Turtle Canyons, for example. This level is pretty simple. It's a hallway with little room for creativity. You can use the bullet bills to try to create some unique jumps and routes through the map, so it can reward really good creative play. But on a first playthrough, when you're just trying to get through, it's a very basic level. For 5-2, we're going to head on up to the A tier here. 5-2 is another great endgame level. You have a couple options here to take, some hidden paths. And there's a couple cool things about routing in this level. If you take a high road or a low road where you can give yourself some pleasure points for extra coins, extra rewards, or you might pick a path that puts you on a rough spot with some Koopas and Goombas and stuff. So I like the creativity and the routing options that are available to the player here. Jumping back up to the S tier for World 5-3. 5-3 is essentially a harder version of 1-3, but I think it's handled really well. The smaller platforms require more precise jumping, but it's still lenient to be on the easier side of the hard side of the game. I think that makes sense. I hope I'm conveying that well. Now, I've had pretty good thoughts or pretty high opinions on World 5 so far. So 5-4 is actually kind of a letdown compared to the rest of World 5. I put it in the D tier. It's just a slightly harder version of Castle from World 2. There's just more Potaboos and more fire bars. I think the Bowser fight is the exact same, so it's just kind of like, what if we took a level you already did and put a couple extra guys in it and called it good for the day? So a little bit lazy, to be honest, for how good World 5 is. And to the C tier, we have World 6-1. This is another Lakitu level. I really don't have much to say about this one either. It just doesn't do anything exciting or terrifying. There's not a lot of pleasure or pain points. It's just another basic Lakitu level. A little harder than the original one from 4-1, but not enough to justify a change in positioning. And for 6-2, we're going to hop back up to the B tier here. It's got a really fun concept. I don't think it pans out too well. Kind of the goal they were doing with this level is a lot of options. There's a ton of pipes that you can go into to find new routes, and I think the real issue that I have with it is all of the pipe routes are beneficial routes. I think if this level had some pipes that led to rooms full of enemies, or it was kind of like a risk-reward of choosing which pipes to go into, this could have been an S tier level. But I still love the concept of just pick a pipe, see what you get. And another B back-to-back with World 6-3 here. This level's alright. The only enemies being in this level are bullet bills that come from off-screen, leads to the majority of this level's challenges to be done by platforming. The major complaint I have here is that some sections make it seem like the low route is an option, but if you stay low, you get dead-ended towards the end of the level. And without being able to backtrack, since the screen can't scroll left in this game, it just kind of feels like there was a poor decision to be made here. Coming back up to the A tier for World 6-4. Now, much like how 5-4 was a remake of 2-4, 6-4 is like an upgraded version of 1-4, but I do find this one a bit more favorable, just because the timing gimmicks here add more pressure, and it feels a lot more in line with the difficulty curve of the game. There's a hallway with 5 fire bars that's combining with Bowser's throwing fire from the back end of the level. It can feel really cool if you know how to maneuver it correctly and quickly, so I think that's a really fun addition to this level. Alright, you're gonna hear a lot of negativity from me here, so I apologize, but for World 7, 7-1, 7-2, and 7-3 all ended up in the D tier here, so kind of going through each of them. 7-1 just felt like a really sloppy enemy gauntlet to me. There's an over-reliance on turtle cannons and bullet bills as a threat that just isn't fun to navigate, and there's also several spots where they throw hammer bros at you that just feels like overkill. I know we're on the back quarter of the game and they want it to feel challenging, but the randomness of the enemies doesn't feel like it rewards a player's skill. It just encourages a lot of sitting still and waiting for a good opportunity. And 7-2 is another remake level. It takes 2-2 and adds some additional enemies. Considering how few water levels are already in this game, it just kind of feels like they added a level to have consistency and not because they had a good idea for it. And then again, with 7-3, it's kind of just a remake of the 2-3 gauntlet of dodging fish. but they've added some extra Koopas and Koopas Paratroopas, and I just don't think it makes for a very fun level. And going back to the F tier for my least favorite level in the game, if you'll remember, 4-4 was a really sloppy maze, and 7-4 does it again. This might be my least favorite level in all of the 2D Mario games, although when we start talking about the lost levels, that I might rechange my mind as I review that one again. But just like with 4-4, it's really hard to know when the game considers you on a split path. It's just too much trial and error, and it's a waste of your time. It's not testing your skills or anything. I just feel like it was very poorly executed at this point. And we've made it to World 8, the final 4 levels of Super Mario Bros. 8-1 is going to be an S tier. This is a perfect level to me. I know that I just trashed on enemy gauntlets pretty hard, but to me this one's really neat, because if you think of it thematically, you are at Bowser's gates, and you're storming into his castle, and of course his army is out in the yard doing their training exercises. So it just kind of gives you this rush of like, you've stormed the enemy's base, and you're just charging through them all now. They're not ready for you. You are unstoppable. You're Super Mario. But World 8-2 and 8-3 are going to go down into the C tier here. Starting with 8-2, I didn't actually realize that all of the Lakitu levels were going to end in the same spot for me. And this one almost could have ended up higher by a few tiers. I love the first half of the level where you have options to get up and kill the Lakitu to give yourself a little space. But they take that away in the back half of the level, and it just leaves you powerless to handle the Lakitu dropping its spinies. While I understand that this is done so that you wouldn't have a way to avoid the bullet bill hell that they instill in the end, it would have been nice if you had a way to just cripple the Lakitu in the back half, or something to just give yourself some options for handling this level. And 8-3 I'm not a huge fan of either. Its core gimmick is dealing with tons of hammer bros, which means if you have a fire flower, you get a super easy challenge, and if you don't have a fire flower, you have to play the waiting game a lot. So I kind of felt like both these levels were just a little bit on the disappointing side. Not bad levels, but just kind of not anything to write home about. And finally, the final level of the game, World 8-4. Now this level does have a little bit of a maze mechanic to it, but I think it's introduced and handled a lot better than the other mazes in this game. It's very easily indicated that the pipes are the junctions here, so it's less about like, do I have to go up or down, and it's just, do I go in this pipe or that pipe, or which pipes do I have to go in. This level has a lot of fun pieces that use things that we've learned throughout the game. The final showdown with Bowser can be pretty anticlimactic, but I've never felt the Bowser fights were worth much in this game. But it's a well-done maze. It brings back swimming one more time, jumping, platforming. It's got everything that you've learned throughout the game. I think if I had any complaint, or the thing that keeps this from getting into the S tier, is that it's a Bowser level, but there's not a lot of potaboos or fire bars outside of the water section. And it's just, what's a Bowser castle without the fire? Where's all the fire? Upon beating the game, though, you are greeted with Princess Peach, who congratulates you on finishing your journey, and you're treated to the end screen here. And this is where they teach you something that I kind of wish I would have known before I started playing the game. I probably wouldn't have abused the rewind feature so much had I known that you could hit B on the main menu screen to select which world to start in. I actually genuinely did not know that on my first time playing through this game, so kind of neat to learn that now. Definitely a cool feature to know, and if I could instruct anyone on something, it's rather than abuse save states like I did, just know that this is a feature and you can hit B to skip to the start of whichever world you're on. Now, as the first game I've played in my Classic series here, it's kind of hard to decide how to rank this without comparing it to other games. Now, I believe it's an extremely important game, and in fact, it's probably the most important video game to have ever been made, but it's certainly not an objective 10 out of 10 experience. I guess I'm going to settle on like an 8.3 for this game. It's got really good music, it's got fun, tight controls, and really when you look at it, there's only a handful of bad levels out of the 32. I think I'd maybe say like 4 or 5 are actually bad levels. So that's a pretty good ratio. As far as, is this a game that everyone needs to go play? I really don't think it is. I think this is a game that a lot of people should play. I think if you like platformers, you should play this. I think if you like retro games, you should play this. And I think if you like just like the history of video games, you should play this. But outside of that, if you're not into platformers, this isn't for you. If you're not into retro games, this isn't for you. This game is incredible, and it's super important. I think everyone needs to know that it saved the video game industry, but I don't think that means everyone needs to go back and play it. Hey, if you've made it to this point in the video, I do genuinely want to thank you for taking time to watch this whole thing. Please, please, please leave me a comment with feedback. It took me a long time to make this video, like probably over a year. It's because I just kept deleting my scripts and starting over because I was never happy with what I did. To be honest, I'm still not entirely happy with it, but I figure I need to put something out there and get feedback rather than just keep stewing on it in my own head. If you really like retro games, I do recommend dropping a follow here and maybe over on my Twitch. I'm currently on a journey of playing all the big releases that came out each year. As of writing this, I'm wrapping up games from 92, and we're going to start picking some games from 93 that we're going to play. I'll leave a link to the Twitch in my description below if you want to be a part of that journey. Otherwise, if you just want to wait for the next video, I should have a video about adding the levels of Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, or Super Mario Bros. 2 JP, coming out within the next month or two. And at some point, I'm going to start doing a video where I rank the deaths in the King's Quest series and review those games as well. Thanks again for watching this. Make sure to leave me some feedback. Stay shiny, stay golden, keep living your best lives, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.